seems very relaxed. Feels like he's had quite a, relaxed. I mean, you asked the question there, Roy, about what he expects from this team and how they're feeling going into this.
Yeah, he seems upbeat. Let's hope he's upbeat after a game because the results. And I think it's key to get off to a good start. This Man United team aren't good enough to be chasing points in the next few weeks. And their home record last year was so bad to lose so many home matches. So they've got to get that belief. Now, we're coming here tonight. Have we got real conviction we believe Man United can win tonight? I'm not sure. Hopefully they will do. And you think they'll have enough strength and depth and enough quality going forward to win the game. But you're still not sure. But I think it's key for Man United to get that belief, that confidence with a winning performance tonight.
I mean, as Roy mentioned, obviously improving home form is going to be key to closing that gap towards the top of the table. Manchester United finished in 8th place last season. They were 31 points behind Manchester City. How do they start to go about closing that gap in terms of performances, Gary?
I mean, look, there's no doubt Erik ten Hag himself will feel fortunate still to be here as the manager of Manchester United, because there was times at the end of last season where you thought he was a sitting duck and it was only a matter of time before obviously he would lose his job, and he obviously won that game against City and everything changed. Look, they were a mess everywhere. Injuries were a mess, the balance of the team was a mess, midfield was an absolute mess, the amount of goals they conceded and shots they conceded on the goal, they didn't score goals. There was very little right about Manchester United last season at all. The only positive was the FA Cup success, so they've got to change everything. It's got to be so much better.
The biggest insult you could say to that United team last year wasn't it, like they were easy to play against. As a player, that's an insult to you, isn't it? They have to be more competitive, they have to be more tenacious, they have to score more goals, they've got to have that more belief in their defending, a bit more pride in their defending. They can't be as easy to play as last year. They can't be. It wouldn't be tolerated.
I mean, that's why I asked the question to the manager when he came out, in terms of course, they had a lot of injuries last season, and you're hoping from a Manchester United point of view they'll be back. You look at the signings that they've made as well. They've been backed in the transfer market, as he has been every summer. He spent a lot of money here, Erik ten Hag, and as you rightly said, Kelly, this is his team now. I mean, I think there's 5 players from Ajax.
Well, there's another 2 who've come in who played under him at Ajax, which is why I asked the question, because it is young, talented players, exactly like he said.
Yeah, and you go back to sort of what happened last season. Of course, mitigate some circumstances in terms of the injuries, but we see this a lot in football now. When teams have injuries, there's still a sort of style of play that they sort of stick to, that sort of goes through the club. And that's why I asked them that question, will we see anything different? Because we can't come here tonight and watch Fulham run through midfield and run at that back foot. That just cannot happen tonight. I don't think it will in terms of the setup. Looks like there's a lot of bodies in midfield. But if you come away here tonight ourselves and Manchester United supporters and see the same things that we saw last year, that is down to the manager. He has to have changed that something.
Yeah, and we talked about the way that they potentially could set up this evening, the fact that's not necessarily how they're going to play throughout the rest of the season. What do you think he wants to do ideally, Gary? If he had everybody fit and available, which is the manager's dream, but ideally, what do you think he wants to be doing?
Do you know something, Kelly? I'm not quite sure even he knows now, and we certainly don't know what the system is. We knew when he came to the club what he was going to try and do. In that
Gary, that's a massive worry, isn't it? Do you seriously believe that?
It is. I genuinely do believe that. One thing he won't do is leave Casemiro on his own. And I don't think he'll leave the back 2 unprotected, because I don't think there's a lot of pace at the back in terms of the centre-backs. So there are still a lot of questions unanswered here. And when I look at that squad, I think it's going to be a case of trying to stumble upon a system. I think what's happened against City in these 2 matches, either side of obviously the end of last season and this season, is he feels like he's got something to hang on to, something that the players believe in, and potentially, now can he do that against Fulham at home? Because obviously you can be reactive against City, you can be passive, you can sit back and soak up pressure and then counter-attack, but can they do it here against Fulham, where they've had problems against this type of team? That is still the question to answer.
And for all the money they've spent, the players they've brought in, you still worry about that lack of pace at the back. That can set the tone for exactly your team shape, where the midfielder is going to be, where your attacking players are. So the lack of pace at the back is still a huge worry.